If Wilt Chamberlain clearly has the highest scoring prime, he clearly wipes the competition with big scoring nights, how wouldn't this guy be the greatest scorer of all time? Well, stay tuned, because in the next part of this video, we're going to really put Wilt's godlike offensive production into perspective. 25 points a game is a very respected number in the world of NBA scoring. It's pretty safe to say that if you're averaging this number or higher in a season, you are one of the league's premier bucket getters. But 25 points hasn't held the exact value throughout the history of the NBA. Throughout the timeline of basketball, the value of points has fluctuated up and down. This chart right here shows the value of 25 points a game from the years 1960 all the way to the left to the year 2023, the current day. The value of scoring 25 points was at its highest point in the early to mid 60s, around this point. So the equivalent of scoring 25 points in today's game is like scoring 32.2 points a game in 1961, meaning that scoring big was the easiest around this time. It dipped at its lowest point around the mid to late 90s and around the early 2000s. In 1999, the equivalent of scoring 25 points a game in today's game dropped as low as 22.5 points. So this era of basketball was the hardest to score big in. And you may be asking yourself, what causes these fluctuations in scoring? Well, it's all about the pace of play. Because of various influences that change the style of the game, like rule changes, officiating, trends in play style, and more, different eras have different paces of play. And as you can imagine, this heavily affects how much or little a player scores. So to counteract these fluctuations in pace of play, the NBA had a genius idea of creating something called per 100 possession statistics. Per 100 stats, like the name suggests, calculates player stats as if they played a standard 100 possessions. And on top of that, the stat also assumes everyone plays a full 48 minutes. So it really balances out the differences in pace of play in minutes, creating a very balanced and objective way to compare players of different eras. Despite me giving all of the praise to Wilt Chamberlain in the previous section of this video, this one single concept really destroys any chance of him being the greatest scorer of all time. Because not only did this man literally average more minutes than there are in a game the season he averaged 50, but he also played by far in the highest paced era of basketball, which really inflates his scoring numbers. Because this is what Wilt's numbers really look like. Nowhere near what they were in the 60s. So based off this metric, which players do score the most? Throughout NBA history, an individual scoring 40 points a season per 100 possessions has proven to be a historic scoring season. Throughout the league's 77 years of play, including this season, we've seen 49 individuals have a season average of 40 plus points per 100. And this is who these 49 players are. As you can see, a bunch of the league's greatest scorers ever make an appearance on this prestigious list. But what separates a season from historic to a once-in-a-generation feat of offense is averaging 45 points a game per 100. And we've seen 7 individual seasons where this has happened. Michael Jordan in 1987, Kobe Bryant in 2006, James Harden in 2019, Giannis in 2023, and Joel Embiid has done this for 3 straight years in a row. Absolutely insane. But looking back at this chart normally, something you can really notice quite easily is how many of these 49 seasons have taken place recently. To show a color-coded version of this, the 2020s decade in pink makes up 19 of the 49 spots, so 39%, and every other decade falls behind. The next closest decade to the 2020s is the 90s thanks to Michael Jordan, and the 2010s decade. The 1960s and 70s decade only combined for one measly season, and it was Wilt Chamberlain in 1962, his 50-point per game season. The 2020s has seen an offensive boom that no other era has even came close to. The amount of offense we're used to seeing in today's game quite literally isn't normal. In terms of the individuals who've had the most appearances on this list, well, that would be none other than Michael Jordan, with an astonishing 9 features. The next highest is a 3-way tie between Giannis, Luka, and Embiid, all with 4 features. But what about players that average the highest points per 100 possessions for their career? Having some all-time seasons is nice, but who did it for their whole career? Well, some of the top scorers might really surprise you. This is what the top 10 scorers per 100 possessions look like. Out of everyone in NBA history, Joel Embiid is the highest scorer on average. Of the top 10, 6 of these players are current: Embiid, Doncic, Durant, LeBron, Curry, and Harden. I guess we'll just have to wait and see if Embiid and Luka can both sustain their numbers into their later years to stay afloat of MJ. It really makes sense. In an era of players, coaches, and organizations looking out for players' health more than ever, it decreases the amount of minutes they have to play on a regular season basis, combined with the more conservative pace of play historically compared. It's the perfect recipe for current players to crack this list. But we're not done just yet. I'm pretty sure if you gave about 75% of the players in the league 40 shots a game, they could find a way to put up about 30 points a night. I mean, it might not be the prettiest, but I'm pretty certain in a league as talented as the NBA, most players could get it done. About 95% would severely hurt their team's chances of winning in the process, but I'm sure they could get it done. My point being that efficiency matters. Right here, we have the true shooting percentage of the top 10 per 100 possession scorers of all time, right next to their scoring numbers. But what if, just what if, we found the perfect scoring values for every NBA legend? The true scoring representative that accounts for all aspects of scoring like pace of play, minutes, efficiency, and scoring volume. Would this not be the best way to judge a player's scoring capabilities against one another? To really find who has that highest true scoring value, you need everything. When looking at some of the most efficient scorers ever, you're honestly kind of underwhelmed. I mean, come on. Rudy Gobert, DeAndre Jordan, Tyson Chandler, Clint Capella. I mean, not bad players, but they're not who you think of when you think of the greatest scorer of all time. But when you combine points per 100 possession multiplied by true shooting percentage, your greatest bucket getters list turns into this. Joel Embiid once again takes a notable advantage over the rest of the competition, winning by more than 2 points than the next highest player. It's really interesting how once again, the new players of the game overwhelmingly dominate this list, having 8 of the top 10 spots, only not having Jordan and Shaq. With all of these young players still in their primes, getting a lot of points on the daily, we'll just have to wait and see if they can sustain their averages once they retire. I think at this point we've found enough scoring data to truly rank these players against each other, so let's do just that. If you're interested in watching more about this topic, go click on the full-length video linked right here.